My parents threw me out with $100. 5 years later, they called me 88 times in a single day. No, they weren't apologizing. They weren't checking if I was alive. They wanted something. The strange part? For 5 years, they acted like I had never existed. No birthday messages. No holiday calls. Nothing. Then one morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Voicemail after voicemail. Text after text. Desperate message after desperate message. I kept wondering what could possibly make the people who abandoned me suddenly remember they had a daughter. When I finally found out the reason, everything I thought I knew about my family changed forever. I was 19 years old the day my parents decided I wasn't their daughter anymore. My crime? I refused to live the life they had planned for me. My father wanted me to attend the university he had chosen. Graduate. Find a stable office job. Follow the same path everyone in our family had followed. But I wanted something different. For years, I'd been teaching myself digital marketing, designing websites, and learning everything I could about online business. I believed I could build something of my own. To my parents, that sounded like childish fantasy. The argument lasted for hours. My mother kept repeating the same sentence. "You're throwing your future away." "No," I replied. "I'm choosing my own future." Those words made everything worse. My father disappeared into his bedroom and returned carrying a crisp $100 bill. He placed it on the kitchen table. "If you're so confident," he said coldly, "this should be enough to get you started." I stared at the money, waiting for someone to laugh. Nobody did. My younger sister, Lily, stood quietly in the hallway, tears filling her eyes. She looked like she wanted to say something. She never did. My mother folded her arms. When you realize how hard the real world is, don't expect this door to still be open. I picked up the $100, grabbed my backpack, and walked toward the front door. No one tried to stop me. No one hugged me. No one even said goodbye. The door closed behind me with a sound I'll never forget. That evening, sitting alone on a park bench with one backpack and exactly $100, I made myself a promise. One day, I would build a life so meaningful that I would never have to beg anyone to believe in me again. I had no idea it would take 5 years, or that the people who abandoned me would eventually come looking for the daughter they chose to forget. The first night, I slept on the couch of a friend from high school. By the end of the week, I knew I couldn't depend on anyone else. I rented the cheapest room I could find. The walls were thin. The furniture barely matched. But for the first time, every decision inside that tiny room belonged to me. During the day, I worked wherever I could. A coffee shop, a bookstore, even weekend catering jobs. At night, I sat in front of an old secondhand laptop, teaching myself everything I didn't already know about digital marketing, online stores, and growing businesses. There were nights I questioned everything. Sometimes I looked at my bank account and wondered if my parents had been right. Maybe I should have chosen the safe path. Maybe I wasn't good enough to build something on my own. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered my father's voice. Asterisk, this should be enough to get you started. Asterisk. He had meant it as an insult. I decided to turn it into motivation. Months became years. One freelance client became 3. 3 became 10. A small website project turned into long-term business partnerships. Eventually, I was earning enough to quit my part-time jobs and focus entirely on the company I had built from scratch. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was creating a future that belonged to me. I never called my parents. They never called me. 5 birthdays passed. 5 Christmases came and went. Not a single message appeared on my phone. At first, the silence hurt. Eventually, it became peaceful. I stopped waiting for an apology that was never coming. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, while drinking coffee before work, my assistant rushed into my office holding her phone. "You need to see this," she said. One article on the internet was about to change everything I thought I'd left behind. I took my assistant's phone and stared at the screen. It was an article from a local business magazine. The headline read, Asterisk, young entrepreneur builds one of the city's fastest-growing digital marketing companies. Asterisk, beneath it was my picture. The interview had been published that morning. I smiled, thanked my assistant, and went back to work. I had no idea someone else was reading the same article. Hundreds of miles away, my younger sister, Lily, was searching online for marketing ideas for a project at work. She wasn't looking for me. She hadn't expected to see my face. Later, she told me she froze the moment she recognized my name. She read the article twice. Then she called her parents. According to Lily, my mother thought it had to be another woman with the same name. My father didn't believe it either, until Lily sent them the link. Everything changed. 5 years of complete silence disappeared in a single afternoon. My phone started vibrating during a client meeting. Then it vibrated again. And again. By the time the meeting ended, I had 23 missed calls. An hour later, there were 47. Before I went to bed that night, the number had reached 88. There were text messages, emails, voicemails, friend requests on every social media account I owned. Every notification came from someone who hadn't cared enough to ask whether I was alive for 5 years. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I turned my phone face down and went to sleep. The next morning, I deleted most of the messages without reading them. Most. One voicemail caught my attention. It wasn't from my parents. It was from Lily. Her voice was shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have spoken up that day. Please, just give me one chance to explain." For the first time since leaving home, my finger stopped above the delete button. And I wasn't sure what to do next. I listened to Lily's voicemail 3 times before calling her back. She answered on the first ring. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she quietly said, "I'm sorry." Not because she had kicked me out. She hadn't. But because she had stood there and watched it happen. She admitted that she had wanted to stop Dad that day. She wanted to run after me. She wanted to call. But every time she tried, our parents convinced her that I had chosen to abandon the family. "I believed them," she whispered, "until I saw what you've built." A week later, I agreed to meet her. Just Lily. Or so I thought. The moment I walked into the cafe, I saw my parents sitting beside her. For a second, I considered turning around. Instead, I took a seat. My mother reached for my hand. I gently pulled it back. Tears filled her eyes. "We've missed you every day," she said. I looked at her in disbelief. "You had 5 years to tell me that." My father cleared his throat. "We were trying to teach you responsibility." I couldn't help smiling. 5 years of silence wasn't a lesson, I replied. It was a choice. Neither of them argued. For a brief moment, I wondered if they had finally accepted what they had done. Then, the conversation shifted. My father asked about my company, how many employees I had, how business was going, whether I still owned the office building mentioned in the article. The questions came one after another. None of them were about me. None were about the years we had lost. Finally, my father leaned forward. "There is something we were hoping you could help us with." The words sounded rehearsed, almost planned. In that instant, I realized this meeting had never been about rebuilding our family. It had been about something else all along. And whatever he was about to ask would explain the 88 missed calls. My father looked down at the table before speaking. Then, almost casually, he said, "We're in trouble financially." I didn't respond. He continued anyway. A failed investment. Mounting debt. The family home was at risk if they couldn't come up with the money. Then he looked directly at me. "We were hoping you could help." There it was. The real reason behind the 88 phone calls. Not love. Not regret. Need. For a moment, nobody spoke. Finally, my mother broke the silence. "We're family." Those 2 words would have meant everything to me 5 years earlier. Now they felt empty. I folded my hands on the table. When I walked out of our house with 1 backpack and $100, I said quietly, "I was family then too." Neither of them looked at me. "You didn't call on my birthdays. You didn't ask if I had somewhere to sleep. You didn't wonder if I had enough to eat. You chose silence." My father's shoulders dropped. My mother began to cry. "I thought you'd come back," she whispered. "I almost did," I admitted. More than once. The table fell silent again. Then I shook my head. "But every day I survived without you became another reason to keep going." I told them I wasn't giving them money. Not because I wanted revenge, but But because trust couldn't disappear for 5 years and suddenly return with a price tag. As I stood to leave, Lily reached for my arm. "I'm sorry," she said through tears. "I know," I replied. "And if you truly want to rebuild what we lost, we'll start with honesty, not money." She nodded. My parents said nothing. I walked out of the cafe feeling lighter than I had in years. 5 years ago, they had handed me $100 and closed the door behind me. They thought they were sending me away with nothing. They were wrong. They gave me the chance to discover my own strength. And that turned out to be worth far more than anything they could ever ask me to repay.